like to start this morning with a meditation from the contemporary American poet Mary Oliver from a poem entitled Praying. Just pay attention, then patch a few words together, and don't try and make them elaborate. This isn't a contest, but a doorway into thanks, and a silence in which another voice may speak. Amen. Welcome to Recovery Sunday at Trinity, and what I hope will become an annual liturgy, recognizing the joy of this miraculous process. When Father Michael asked me to preach this service, I was excited and humbled, as recovery is something that has touched my life personally and professionally. As many of you know, in my life outside of Trinity, I'm a clinical social worker and a university professor. I have worked in addiction recovery for most of my 40 years of practice. My interest in this area, and especially in the difference gender makes in the recovery process, became the focus of my dissertation research. But it is rare for clinicians and even academics to select this topic without some personal experience in the area. While we would probably all agree that addiction is an equal opportunity disease, growing up in a large Irish Catholic family, alcoholism was somewhat normalized. In my extended family, stories from my cousins searching for their dads who stopped off for a few pints after work were common tales. In my immediate family, my brother's alcoholism was present for much of his adolescence, into his early 40s. His sobriety was finally achieved by his desire for my dad, dying of congestive heart failure, to know him in recovery. Coming of age in the early 70s, a time of drugs, sex, and rock and roll, my first serious relationship as an undergraduate was with a woman who was alcohol and drug addicted. It was that experience of not being good enough or powerful enough to overcome the primary relationship that she had with substances that taught me about the disease. It also led me into the rooms of the 12-step programs and to a chair in an Al-Anon meeting. As I shared earlier, I grew up in a large Irish Catholic family. Growing up in such a family meant attending Catholic school. It was not something to be discussed or decided. It just was. For me, however, it became extreme, or perhaps even pathological, as I went from Catholic school through first grade through my doctorate. You would think, after all that time and study, I would know God. I thought I did. But I knew the God of laws, and God as an abstract concept. In the rooms of Al-Anon, sitting on that uncomfortable chair, uncomfortable in so many different ways, I finally learned about the God of love. God was no longer something I thought about, an abstract concept to be grasped intellectually. God became someone I could connect with, a presence that I could sense when I slowed down, was still and listened with an open heart. God was now present in my heart, not in my mind. All those years of classes in Catholic school made me believe I could think my way to God. 18 months in Al-Anon taught me to be still and listen, to feel my way to God. God was always there, waiting to be invited in. If you're not familiar with 12-step programs, you may believe that they are solely focused on addiction recovery. Addiction in all its many forms: alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, relationships, and the list could go on. But the programs define themselves as spiritual fellowships. Addiction causes distortions of reality, which contribute to emotional distress and unhappiness. Such errors in thinking often create a sense of alienation in relationship to God. Ironically, the addict often seeks peace and serenity in the use of substances, denying that through union with God, that which is longed for can finally truly be found. God and others, mysticism, prayer, renewal, and service. In the 12 steps, the spiritual principles of the program are delineated and provide a framework for recovery. It should be noted that the steps are written in the plural, emphasizing that this is a program to be practiced in community. Fellowship is an essential component of the 12-step programs. It is the antidote to the loneliness of addiction and bond from the vulnerability that is uncovered in accepting powerlessness. Those who use a 12-step program know that the program is as much about personal change as it is about abstinence. The 12-step programs distinguish between religion and spirituality. The programs, neither having nor promoting any specific dogma, do encourage members' direct experience in relationship with the God of your understanding. For those of us in 12-step programs who identify with specific faith traditions, scripture passages such as we heard in today's gospel carry messages of hope and encouragement on our recovery journeys. Today's reading from Matthew contains a tender, intimate call to come to a Jesus who is ready and willing to allow us to unburden ourselves through him by accepting his call to discipleship. The symbolism of the yoke in the passage is particularly relevant for those seeking sobriety and who are trying to remain clean and sober. A yoke is a wooden frame used for joining animals for pulling heavy loads. Persons with addictions may often feel burdened, weighed down, and unable to free themselves from the substances that control and direct their lives. They are weighed down by the burden of addiction, yoked to the substances that they thought would bring peace, but are actually slowly killing them, spiritually, emotionally, and ultimately physically. In Jesus' call to discipleship in this selection, the yoke becomes the experience of a life lived according to a spiritual way, promising rest from the weariness and depression that occurs with addiction. Jesus offers a life lived in humility and gentleness, which creates rest for the soul. A life of discipleship does not mean a life without demands and sorrows, but rather promises sustaining help to manage these human experiences through our relationship with the Spirit, who Jesus sent to be with us always. It is in learning to manage the joys and sorrows of human existence that we most clearly see the convergence of organized faith communities and 12-step spirituality. In both contexts, we are called to freely enter into and develop an intimate relationship with the Supreme Being. For some of us, this is Jesus. For others, God of our understanding. Such a relationship is not to become another burden, as it is not an obligation. Remember Jesus' words, "Come to me, and you will find rest." It is a tender, intimate invitation. We are invited to learn to live differently, to be at peace with ourselves and others. It is what the steps offer as well, right relationship with God, self, and others. Life is complicated, but the steps offer a framework for healthy, sober living. And discipleship, in its most simple form, is walking in relationship with Jesus in this world and being open to his direction each step of the way by being still and recognizing that it is in the silence that God speaks. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Amen.
Amen.